Yeah. So when they come and they say, oh, for example, I think we were still having that conversation yesterday when we were trying to explain something. Was it yesterday or something? When they were asking me questions about the Quran and
Oh,
all
okay.
of that. Yeah. So this is it.
Yeah.
When our children started understanding, let me talk about the faith now. Okay, yeah, they are Muslims, they are this people, they are that people. So their question is, oh, this is what I am understanding about this for us to interpret. And interpretation is, when it comes to the subject of faith, faith is your connection with God. So which God are you connected to? That is your faith. Other people have another interpretation of God, and then they are connected to that God. And that is their faith. Just like there's a difference between a boy and a girl. There's a difference between somebody attending this school and that school. There's always a difference between, oh, this is how I'm connected to my own God. And this is how this other person is connected to their own God. One thing we did not do was to expose them like to other faiths growing up, because they needed to understand and be grounded in what we believe in. And another thing is we also allow them ask questions. So for example, if I told them something, I expected them to ask questions. And probably because I have a little more time and all of that, and because of what I do, if I want to teach them something that has to do with faith, I don't teach them from, this is just take it like that, just take it. That's what the Bible says. Just take it. No, I don't teach them like that. I teach them holistically. And then we look at it from also questions that come up from it. Okay, the Good Samaritan, this is what the story says. How does that interpret to us today? So let's look at you in school, your friends. When somebody does this, oh, the person is being like a Levite. When somebody does this, the person is being like the Good Samaritan. This is a concept of it. And then they ask a question, oh, okay, how else can I interpret this? How else can I live this out? You understand? And then we explain all of those things to them. When they say something contrary, they are asking questions to understand, not for them to get confused about it. But oh, what is the perspective? So this is another perspective. How can I understand this their own perspective better? So another thing again that helps us, probably because we decided to be very deliberate about it, is we don't condemn people in front of them. We don't judge people in front of them. So even when they do something wrong, we try to let them ask why, so that they can also have an idea of where the other person is coming from. So they have not started asking us, oh, why are we Christians and some other people Muslims? Or they have not asked me. But the time they ask me, I'm going to tell them, if you were also born in a Muslim home, you'll be Muslims. Would that mean you are bad people? No, it doesn't mean. It just means that you are different from other people. Because we didn't lay that foundation of judging people. We didn't lay that foundation of saying people have to be like this. But when somebody does something, we ask question, why do you think this person did this? Oh, I have a friend in class who doesn't play with anybody. He's always fighting with people. Oh, why do you think this friend does this? How does it make you feel? How does it make other people feel? So do you think that's a good way of doing it? Oh no. Okay, that's not a good way. That's the good way or something. So they understand the concept, the entire concept of it. And then when they see someone who is always fighting, they're not looking at a stubborn person. They're probably looking at somebody who is not used to being listened to. Somebody who just wants to express himself and doesn't know how to do it. So it helps, you know. It takes a lot more work, a lot more being deliberate. But that is actually how we do it. Are there gaps at times? Yeah, of course. But that's basically the bedrock of it. Yeah.
I love it. I want to add a little to that. So there have been instances where something happens to them. Like we used to have these Muslim neighbors that they are fond of. They go to their apartments. They come. They like, can we go to Doha's house? Can we go to this? Is and I'm like, why do you want to go to their house? Oh, please, mommy, please. So then we said, okay, let's call them to find out if they want you to come. You know, so we call. They understand all those kind of things that we do already, which again is also speaking to them. So we call. Okay, can they come? So they go. Now, when these people were leaving the compound, they left without telling them. And that broke my children because they didn't know. So the morning I said, oh, these people have left, they're like, they left. Like, it was shocking. How could they leave without telling me? That's the way they felt, like, I thought that was important to them, and it took us sitting them down to say it's okay, it's okay. I first had to calm them down. They were going to school that morning. When we were done praying, I said, no, it's okay. Your feelings are valid. They didn't mean it that way. It was just because this happened, that happened. Don't worry, we're going to call them and we're going to have a conversation. But in some instances where some people do something and they feel like, oh, that's not right. I'm like, oh, it's because you are seeing it this way and they are seeing it the other way, right? And that has really been very helpful. Again, when he was talking about the concept of not judging, the same thing with tribes with tribes. When we were growing up, I mean, the house where I grew up had a mosque right in front of it. And while we are not judgmental people in my family, we had days where we unconsciously, there was that bias of these people are Muslim, we are Christians, right? But I grew up because the idea we had was they were always tough, they were always fighting, they were always angry, and that was what they showed to us when we were growing up. Then I grew up, and then I met a lot of amazing Muslims, and then I started to realize that, oh, these people are not generally as perceived. So, and then I opened my heart up to them, and because we are open to them, like my children are literally addicted to reading right now. And when people ask us why, how did you do it? I'm like, we didn't do anything. It is because they see us read. So they read. Now we are open to Muslims. We have people that are covered to come to our house, and they've seen them. And they know my mom is a friend to this person. So I think that's enough message to also teach them not to be judgmental,
And be in acceptance
of all tribes and religion, yeah.
What's one sacrifice that you've made for the other's ambition? What's one sacrifice that you've made for his ambition to grow or thrive, and vice versa? And how did it then shape the relationship?
Let me say one sacrifice that she made for me.
You love your wife too much.
Let me say something. I'm going to say mine. But one thing was that she took the time to explain to me and to demonstrate the need for coaching.
The need for coaching.
Oh. It transformed my life, and then it also opened me up to a lot of things. Not only did it open my mind to a lot of things, I started seeing people in another light. So, we are doing well. And then she said, oh, I want to have a coach. There's this coach. Like, she said, I'm going to pay this money. What is your business? And then she took out the time to explain, to expose me to things like that, to that. And I see that as a major sacrifice. The reason is this. There are some aspects of my life I'm set in my ways. So she doesn't bother some aspects of my life. Like I said, I'll never report my wife to somebody. Like, I'm set. I don't think nothing will happen. Like, that will not say, see what. So she knows once I say some things like, oh, this one, don't let's talk about it. But she talked about it and talked about it and talked about it and showed me. That's a major sacrifice. You might look at it from outside and say, it's not just to talk. No. My work, she understands my work to a great level, but because of the nature of my work, what sacrifice can you make? Like, okay, fine, you cook for me every day. I don't eat like that much, or you don't have to leave what you are doing for you to join what I'm doing. But she saw that one thing, okay, you have been doing a lot of work, but one thing that will transform your career is when you open your mind to this concept. And I opened up my mind to coaching, to having a coach, to see people as a coach, to see this. It's a major sacrifice that she made for me. And at times I say, how did you think I was going to ever be able to see sense in this thing? At times you know some things and then you feel you know it all. I think maybe it's a man thing. You just feel you know it all, then your wife talks to you and then you're like, at times it comes up. That's a major sacrifice.
I have like so many questions that my brain is I can understand that how it was a sacrifice. But I'm still like, how was it a sacrifice? Because again, there's the concept of men not wanting women to nag them. Because when you say she talk, she talk, she talk, my brain is going, that's when they say a woman is nagging.
Nagging. Yeah.
Do you see? My brain is going, that's nagging. And what exactly did she say? We need to learn.
Yeah. So what are you?
Because my brain is ringing two different bells. Like, but that's nagging. That's what they call nagging. But it's also like, but what? How did she do this thing that other people call nagging?
Yeah, I understand. So the concept of nagging to me is when someone does wrong and you keep talking about the wrong they have done. That's what I see as nagging. It might not be it, but that's my own interpretation of nagging. So I make a mistake and then you keep talking about my mistake. I keep talking. I'll say you are nagging. But if there's a suggestion, Jay, have you tried this out? I think you should try this. Or have you read this book? If you read this book, you understand what I'm telling you better. I don't see that as nagging. I don't see that as nagging. I just feel there is something there that she sees. And like I said, there are some things that when she comes and she says, oh, have you tried this? Have you done? And I say, you know what? No. She respects my no a lot because she understands that when I say the no, it's no. But this particular one, she said, she came and I said the no. Like no. And then she said, oh, this will help you, your career, you are doing this, you need to do this. No. Like no. And then come up again, play a tape where I am, and then increase the volume and I hear it. And I'm like, oh, this is not making sense to me. And then she keeps doing it because, and the reason why I say it's a sacrifices. I think it's natural that most of the time we don't like being rejected. Most of the time. That's why you will see a woman will say, well, that's how he is. Let's just leave him. It's not like that's how it is. If you ask yourself very well, you are not enjoying that rejection. It makes you feel less of yourself. It makes you feel like this other person feels, I am not worthy of being listened to. It makes you feel like this other person doesn't appreciate your worth. So you now say, oh, that's how it is. Let me just leave him. It's not really that's how it is. You are tired of that rejection.
Yeah.
So she wasn't tired of that rejection.
That makes sense.
She wasn't tired of me saying, what you're saying doesn't make sense at all. Like, if you want to suggest something, you want to help me, think more, think more. Think of something I really appreciate. She wasn't tired of hearing that. Because it took a while. And there were some times that, I'll just say, you're disturbing me. This thing doesn't make any sense to me. But she never gave up.
I remember before.
Wait, take your glory. Take your appreciation. Because it's so good when you say that people just say, oh, that's the way they are. But they don't take into account how what you're doing is rejecting me, rejecting the good I have for you, rejecting how I know you can be better and we can be better. And kudos to even you for seeing it finally.
Yeah, for seeing it. So is it kudos to me or?
No, I really think. I really think like it's very hard for people to get out of their own way and get out of how much they are set in their ways. That when you bring something good to them, at least maybe something. And I wanted to ask also to say that, was it because you started to see results in her?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that was part of it. But like she has always grown. Although when she got into it, it takes time for results to show.
Yeah.
She has always grown. And it wasn't particularly the result. Okay, it wasn't particularly the tangible result. But the fact that she started seeing things so differently that I started to ask questions. Where are these perspectives coming from?
You were not challenged by the perspective, were you?
No, I wasn't challenged. I was curious. Like, where are these things coming from? Jumoke is the type of, oh yeah, come on. And then, things were changing, something will come up, and then I looked more like the
yeah.
And
so
then,
it was like you were beginning to question yourself and your growth, because the person who used to do that is no longer as karma, and then you're not like
what's going on? Like, this thing is changing.
But the dynamics have changed.
Yeah.
Yeah, and now this thing is changing. Like, what are you doing differently? You are seeing things differently.
Yeah.
And then I started to now go back to those things she was telling me. And then one day she said, there's a program I wanted to attend. And then after I attended, I said, when are you paying this lady? Because I was like, I don't know. No,
No,
Yeah.
see, kudos to her. She's my friend, and I think we've been on that journey together. But kudos to you. Kudos to you, because that could have been challenging for you, and you'd have sat in the challenge of it.
Yeah.
You took yourself out of the ego and the challenge and the you took yourself out of ego, you took yourself out of ignorance and saw it as, instead of me being guarded, how about I actually be consciously aware and listen and notice and observe and see how things are, because you did that. You were not just challenged. Your ego was not just like, oh, I feel less or anything. You started to like open your mind to receive. And
yeah, I get what you're saying.
you still don't want to collect your own praise. People don't.
No, I'm trying to. Now I understand very well what you're saying. Yeah, because there are issues when men will say, I'm the man here or something. Yeah, I get what you're saying. Yeah. I knew from time I was marrying somebody very intelligent. Yeah, I knew from time. I knew from time I was marrying somebody who I believe was better than me in several areas. That didn't take the stubbornness from me. But I knew. Yeah, I knew. So when things were changing, I was like, wow, okay.
You signed up for this?
Just show me the way. Just show me the way.
Show me the way.
I think that I should actually give kudos to him, really, really, because I always remember when we were going to get married, I was going to break up with him at a point, and I said, I've been talking about this thing and it is not changing. And I reported him to people and I said, this thing is not changing. I said, this thing is not changing and I want to break up because of that. And the person said, okay, make a list of the things that he does and the things that he doesn't do well, like check. Does one outweigh the other? And I think I got like maybe 20 lists, 20 things. It gave me number 2020. I got 20 of what he does well. Maybe I struggle to get 5 of what he doesn't do well. And I'm like, yeah, but this one is very, 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 very important to me and he's still not working on it. But one of the things I took away was they said, oh, he's a teachable person. And when they say somebody is teachable, like, oh, okay, if you call them, if you tell them about something, they are open to seeing other people's perspective. Yeah. So I think that's one thing that has really worked for us. The fact that he's set in his way about some things, but he's also open-minded enough to hear another perspective. So when this growth thing, one of the things I used to initially go for was Tricia B's business growth workshop. I dragged it for one. It's not his thing. You can give him book, he might read, give him this. Well, that we are going there to spend the whole day seated doing business growth learning. But we went there together and we sat in the class. He would say, okay, after a while that you have been talking about it. So again, one thing with me is I feel like when I said it the first time, you are not hearing, I'm still going to say it again. And I take that glory myself, let me collect the glory. Because I feel like he doesn't do that, he would tell me, and then if I say no, he will go and try to show me so that maybe I'll get it on time. But he will stop talking about it and try to just maybe do it. But for me, I'll keep talking about it. So I talk about it, and then this is what I learned with this is what I learned with that. But one thing again that's going to make me say kudos to you is how you are very open-minded to things. Oh, I read in this book this and this. She used to read novels. I mean, you could finish like 5 novels in 1 week. That's how Like
Nice.
you just be reading, and like instead of spending your time reading these horror novels, why don't you just read some of my read this book, read that book, all those growths.
growth-centered books.
So I'll give him, and then he'll read it, and he will finish, and he will talk about it. Yeah. And I'm like, okay, this is good. And that was one of the things that made me start posting to him to say, talk about those things that you should attend. And he was actually open to it. I remember one doctor I met in school, and he said I should see him. And I said, Seye, let's go. And we went there. I remember we met him somewhere in Lekki. And when we left that meeting, she was like, oh my God, my mind is open. How he's not afraid to be vulnerable. How he's not afraid to say, oh, I'm learning something new. It's always fascinating to me. I love when I see that. It makes me feel like it turns me on, literally. Like
I didn't want to say it. I'm like, you talking and him like, I'm like, you guys, I get 50 after this podcast. I've been doing it.
where you're just really ready to grow. You're talking. So when he says something, I'm challenging him, but it's like this. But why don't you say it this way? Or when he says something and I say, oh, this way, it's like, okay, well, there's a possibility of that. There is no, I am set in my way in him totally. Of course, with some things, he's set in his way, just the way I am set in my way with some things. I mean, I always talk about the raising children. There's some things I won't do for my children, not because I am a good mother, but I will not cross some lines for myself. I'm going to sacrifice. Giving birth is a sacrifice in itself. I mean, breastfeeding is a sacrifice. But the day I realized I was having high blood pressure as a mother was the day I stopped breastfeeding. Thankfully, she was already maybe 10 months. It was the day I stopped breastfeeding. I'm like, no, you're not going to kill me. You are going to live, I am going to live. We both have our lives to live. So that's my kind of person. I would sacrifice, but I will not kill myself to sacrifice for you. So, and that's like what he has seen. So I'll just keep moving. I am moving and moving, and my husband is saying, okay, she's moving, let me move. She's moving, let me move. And I really love that for us. I love the fact that Seye is seeing it as, so at this point, he started moving and saying, you two have done this, let me also do. And I'm like, okay, I went out in competition. But eventually I saw that it wasn't competition. It was always the life I dreamed of. It was always the life I wanted, where Seye is vibrant, doing well in his own thing. I am also doing well in my own thing. And then when we come back home together, we're like, oh, we're taking on the world. We're doing well in our own thing. Yeah. So, and that's the way it is. So kudos to you, sir.
You guys can kiss yourself. You guys kiss yourself. The way you this way is well done. Honestly, well done to you. I was going to ask a question about like what are the pillars, what are the solid pillars that helped your marriage and why? And I think that this is one of it, and I'd like you to answer that. And I think learning together, growing together, achieving together is something that, at least from this conversation, I see, and I know you well, and I know that that's something that has, for me, I've learned that it's a pillar. It's a pillar for me, and it's something that is big for me. So seeing you talk about it and how it even turns you on, I'm like, I know I've always been that person, and you guys don't even know how this is interesting to me because it shows possibility.
Yeah.
It's not impossible. It is true. It is valid. It is doable. So yeah.
Yeah. So I think one of the things that we settled before we got married was that our lives are not going to be like separate, as it were. And let me explain that. We understand boundaries. And but at the same time, we understand the fact that two are going to become one. That is why she can talk to my friends, I can talk to her friends. The boundaries are there, but it's not going to be like you have offended me and then I begin to see you as a separate party from me. So that oneness is there. That's something we always remind ourselves of. And that is why it is difficult for her to do something for me that will be so hurtful that I will now be like, you have hurt me kind of thing. No. Because the two have become one. And that's one thing that is a major pillar for us. It helps us in everything. I don't spend her money. if she doesn't spend my money, I feel slighted. Maybe it's ego. I don't know. Yeah, because
Enjoyment.
and what I'm trying to say is the boundaries are still there. Maybe it's ego that will make me say I want to just eat her money. And if she doesn't spend mine, I feel somehow like something happened some days ago, and then she made a purchase. I was charged, and then she was going to refund me. I'm like, what's going on now? She actually, you didn't tell me before. So what does that mean? You understand that kind of a thing? Because maybe she felt if it's happened the other way around, I want to refund her one way or the other.
Nah.
But like I was saying, we always try to remind ourselves of that oneness. Like, we are one. We are one right now. It's not about you, it's not about me, it's about us. So it helps us to grow together. It helps us to communicate well. It helps us to always recenter, even if something happens. So there's a hotel. We find it easy to come back and say, we are still one.
Yeah.
We are always one, and that is more important than any other thing because we are one.